It's a really thoughtful group. It's a great place to get out of the city and out of our traditional discussion points. It's amazing to be out there on a boat fishing and listening to people talking about gold and central bank policy and debating left and right. And we started off last night with a fantastic panel discussion on the dynamics of, do we still have a legal system in the United States that attracts investment? And I thought there was a lot of fun discussions around that, and I expect there's going to be a lot more.
And at the end of that discussion, you and I and a few others who have some very serious careers in judicial experience.
Yes, unfortunately.
I mean, I would call a Supreme Court justice such a person.
Yes.
We were talking about what I and you and the four of us agreed was the unspoken subject.
Yeah.
The confidence of the baseline population in the legal system.
Yes.
Now, this is now an interview of two people who agree with each other, which may be boring, but would you relay your view of this?
Sure. So a lot of the discussion was very focused on the grievances that investors have where our standards and the norms have been abridged, right? So the Chrysler bankruptcy was brought up, the dynamics of Fannie and Freddie's conservatorship.
Right.
My concern is that most of this is actually an outgrowth of the fact that we have largely failed to invest in our judicial system to make sure that the ordinary person actually has access to it. And that can range from, a corporation like Target or CVS that's dealing with the inability to prosecute shoplifting. But far more importantly, it's things like small claims court, which have become increasingly backed up. The access to a jury of your peers, which is guaranteed under the Constitution, is something that very few people really have access to at this point in today's world. It's just the entire process has become so extraordinarily expensive and so unobtainable for most people that in the discussions I have with a lot of people, they've just completely lost faith in the actual ability to mete out justice in any reasonable framework.
So what I had hoped and wasn't discussed in that panel was this question.
Yeah.
How can we, in our political environment that we now face, which is toxic in my opinion, can we find a way? Is there a pathway to restore confidence? I mean, the normal person that encounters our legal system does so because they are dealing with a criminal item and they want to trust the system, have a fair judge, a fair jury, treat them without partiality. And if they didn't do something, they want to be found innocent. And if they did do something, then they want to bargain off the penalty. And if we have disputes, we want to adjudicate the disputes with fairness, the same idea. And I am encountering more and more people who say that system's gone.
Yep.
And you are too.
100%. And I think this is one of the, unspoken breakdowns in institutions, right? So we think about the breakdown in trust in Congress. We think about the breakdown in other areas. Increasingly, our court system is viewed as a series of political appointments designed to benefit one party versus another. The party in power restricts the access to approve judges throughout the system and try to prevent effectively the counterparty, right, the alternative from having the influence that they are seeking through those nominations. We went through this in the late 19th century, right? This is why we passed the Pendleton Act that actually professionalized the administrative functions, bureaucratic functions of the U.S. government, removed it from systems of patronage. I have to believe that there's a similar solution out there, but a big part of it, like seriously, just a big part of it is recognizing that when you have public institutions, you have to fund them, right? And one of the primary issues that we have is that the court systems have become completely overloaded with sometimes false litigiousness, and sometimes with just an inability to actually execute and carry out in an efficient manner.
Yeah. Well,
so I'll be honest with you, I'm hopeful that things like AI will actually work very rapidly to help people understand what the actual core of a case is, that we can move through that very quickly. And the other thing I mentioned last night is that the small claims court, which was introduced in the 20th century to facilitate access to dispute resolution for ordinary people, that's an area that candidly has suffered from tremendous neglect. And it's one that we could really expand very inexpensively. You actually don't need judges, right? You can actually have adjudicators who do this.
So Bottom line, when it comes to rule of law and its impact on our society now and in the next decade or two, are you an optimist or a pessimist?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I am always a perpetual optimist. And so when it comes to human condition and human nature, I honestly believe that we will innovate our way to solutions given the freedom and flexibility to do so. Part of the challenge, I think, unfortunately, is that we are trying to return. This is actually one of the comments made by Harvey last night. This idea that we're pining for a world that used to exist, that we used to have a perfect system and we should go back to it. I think the simple reality is you always have to move forward, right? And so we would have complained about the same issues of moral hazard and challenges in the 19th century with the introduction of limited liability corporations. There was outrage in corporate America at that point in time, right? Outrage over the extension of perpetual charters. These were all changes meant to improve our society, to create the flexibility for individuals to try and fail and then recover.
So you think there's a possibility through some innovation to have our system continue in a new form, perhaps, and prevail in this great country of America?
I genuinely believe that if we allow people the freedom to innovate and the flexibility to take advantage of opportunities that are created, that we can solve almost any problem that sits in front of us.
This is a good reason for Mike to be here in this gathering. And we
I'm the
appreciate
optimist.
You're the optimist. We have 11 economists where we have 12 pessimists and 13 opinions.
There we go.
And we have you here, and we're glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
Glad
I really
you joined
was able
us.
to join.
Thank you.